First of all, there's this empowered youth taking action all around the planet, eventually becoming, we hope, a critical mass of young people moving out into the adult world as the next doctors and lawyers and politicians and parents and teachers. A group of young people who understand that we need new values in our society to make a better world. A group of young people that understands that although we need money to live, we shouldn't live for money. So, my first reason for hope, the power of youth. My second reason for hope, the resilience of nature. It's unbelievable how if we completely destroy a place, given a bit of time or some help, sometimes I'm afraid rather expensive help, that place can be restored and given another chance. Rivers, so polluted that they're more like open drains, can be cleaned, and fish can be returned, and life can start up again. And the last thing I would say about the Take Care program around Gondi is that 4 years ago we realized there was fantastic coffee grown in the high hills outside the national parks. But the farmers couldn't get it to market because there's no proper roads. At least they could get it there, but they wouldn't make a profit. So I managed to persuade one of the big international coffee roasting companies to come out. They tested the coffee, they found it was great. They bought a container full. They found it sold very well as a specialty brand. It was called Gombe Reserve. They came back along with other coffee roasters. Over the past 3 years, we've sold 13 of these huge containers that go in boats. The villagers have never had so much money for their coffee. They are absolutely delighted. And it means that they have now truly become our partners. In Tanzania, every village is required to make a land use management plan. They have to put a certain percentage aside that they choose, percentage aside for agriculture, percentage for human activity, and we must put a percentage for conservation. And so the villagers around Gombe, all 24 of them, and even we've approached others beyond, have agreed to sit down with the person that JGI has, who makes amazing maps using satellite imagery and GIS, GPS technology. And they've arranged their conservation areas in such a way that already a green corridor is growing, which will enable the Gombe chimpanzees finally to move out of this little island prison of forest that they're in today and interact, if they so wish, with other chimpanzee groups living beyond. And the other chimpanzees will be able to move in. And about 3 months ago, I stood on the hills behind Gombe, with the lake invisible in front, and looked out over what had been completely bare hills where people were trying to farm. And there was actually this green line of trees, like a broad band of trees going right up to the peaks of Gombe. And the trees were about so high, and will get higher. It's another example of the resilience of nature. If you stop hacking at the seemingly dead tree stumps, then within 5 years you have a fertile tree. The Gombe chimpanzees now have hope for the future. Animal species on the very brink of extinction can be given another chance. And I know a lot about that because I've just finished a book. And it deals not only with the resilience of the animals themselves if they're given help, but the amazing people who refuse to let a certain species die, even though everybody laughs at them, accuses them of wasting money. They won't give up, and there have been the most extraordinary success stories. And it brings me to my final reason for hope, the indomitable human spirit. The people who do tackle impossible tasks, the people who won't give up, the people who overcome tremendous physical disabilities to lead lives that are shining examples to those around them. The people who overcome social problems that most of us would give up in front of. People like Nelson Mandela, He came out of 17 years of hard physical labor with this amazing ability to forgive, which enabled him to lead his nation out of the evil regime of apartheid. So I want to end with one last story. It's about a chimpanzee called Jojo. He was born in Africa. His mother was shot when he was about 1.5, because it's the only way you catch a baby is to kill the mother. He was shipped off to a big zoo in North America. And for a long time, he lived alone in a tiny, old-fashioned zoo cage with no other companion at all. Just a small little infant, lonely and sad. And then a new zoo director raised a lot of money, bought a lot of chimpanzees, built this huge enclosure, surrounded it by a moat filled with water, because chimpanzees can't swim, introduced the chimpanzees to each other carefully because of this dominance. They have this desire for dominance among the males. Finally, everything's ready. They're all out in the enclosure. Everything's fine until one of the younger males challenges the senior male, who happens to be Jojo. Jojo, who's had no chance to learn what this magnificent dominance display is about, and who's so terrified he runs into the water. He doesn't know about water either. And he's so frightened, he gets over the railing that's been built to stop the chimpanzees drowning in the deep water beyond. 3 times, Jojo comes up gasping for air, and then he vanishes under the water. On the other side of the moat is a tiny group of people. One man, Rick's group, who goes once a year with his wife and little children, jumps in, even though a keeper grabs hold of him, tells him that Jojo weighs 130 pounds and that male chimpanzees can be dangerous. He jumps in, feels around, swimming, touches Jojo's body, gets this 130-pound dead weight over his shoulder, manages to climb over the railing, pushes Jojo up onto the bank, and then turns to rejoin his family. There was a woman there with a video camera. She doesn't remember filming. Everybody's very frightened. But from her little piece of home video, you can tell what happened next. It's very shaky video. First you see the people on the bank screaming at Rick towering back that he's going to be torn apart, because they can see 3 of the big males coming down with bristling hair to see what's going on. And at the same time, Jojo is sliding back towards the water because the bank was too steep. And this shaky film amazingly steadies on Rick, and you see him standing with one hand on that railing, looking up at his family, looking up towards where these 3 males are coming, looking down to where Jojo is just disappearing under the water. And for a moment, Rick stood there motionless. And then he went back. Again, he pushed Jojo up. This time he stayed there, pushing. Jojo feebly trying to grab something. He wasn't dead, of course. And with Rick pushing, manages to pull himself up to where the land is level. And just in time, Rick gets back over that barrier. So that evening, that little piece of film was flashed across North America, and the director of GGI saw it, called up Rick, said, "That was a very brave thing you did. You must have known it was dangerous. Everybody was telling you. What made you do it?" And Rick said, "Well, you see, I happened to look into his eyes, and it was like looking into the eyes of a man. And the message was, won't anybody help me?" And you see, that's the look that we've seen in the eyes of these little orphan chimps in Africa that's led for the centuries. It's the look that we've seen in the eyes of the chimps in the 5-foot by 5-foot prisons of the medical research labs that's led to our efforts to stop that kind of research in those kind of conditions. It's the look I've seen in the eyes of elephants, chained, rocking from foot to foot, or dogs thrown out in the street. I've seen it in the eyes Appreciate them, no hurry.